The practices of gleaning and canning excess produce are becoming a lost art. However, they serve practical purposes in easing food insecurity. It's time to crack open those old jars and dig into our memories of canning with loved ones and bring these arts back. Gleaning is the practice of gathering leftover produce post-harvest. The produce may initially be unharvested due to aesthetics, labor, or cost. Due to the seasonal nature of harvest, gleaning organizations thrive primarily in the summer, but face a slowdown in the off-season. The off-season slowdown affects food banks and other community nonprofits partnered with gleaning organizations. The reduced availability of fresh produce forces food banks to supplement their pantry through grocery stores or to rely on community donations. The complexity of gleaning organizations demands simplification. Bridging the gap between harvest seasons and reducing waste within these organizations requires a strategic focus. Food preservation emerges as a viable solution to create a smoother harvest season and productive post-harvest. During my internship, the questions I considered were, which factors are most significant for gleaning organizations when preserving fruits? I was also able to consider, what is the most efficient food preservation method for gleaning organizations supplying food banks? During my internship, I worked with City Fruit. City Fruit is a small-scale gleaning organization that prioritizes harvesting and distribution in the summer. In the winter, efforts shift to tree care and community outreach to foster a cyclical or year-round approach with community members. During my internship partner, Rachel Ellingwood, and I harvested fruits from local homeowners. We harvested around 3 properties daily of various fruits, ranging from cherries, apples, plums, and figs. After harvesting, edible fruit was washed and sent to nearby food banks. Other fruit underwent preservation by freezing or jamming, or were sent to local diversion companies, such as cideries. This approach ensured prompt delivery of fresh produce to the community. Through published journals, I examined gleaning organizations across the United States, both small and large, across diverse climates, to understand the strains they face during harvest seasons. I was also able to assess the nutritional component within a variety of preservation techniques. Another component of my research was interning at City Fruit. This allowed me to understand firsthand their goals, challenges, and needs. I was also able to have discussions with City Fruit staff about their perspectives on gleaning organizations and the connections with preservation. I also conducted trials at home for a hands-on approach to preservation methods like freezing and canning. This experimentation aimed to determine the most efficient preservation technique, mainly considering time and space, that also attempted to look at the fruit's nutritional components. From my research, it became evident that organizations' primary barriers to food preservation are limited infrastructure space, time constraints, and inconsistent volunteers. I did note that volunteer engagement improves in gleaning organizations when gleaning organizations are active year-round. Limitations are apparent among the common preservation types. Freezing is time efficient but constrained by storage space. Dehydration faces legal constraints due to food poisoning, and canning requires more time and skill. Misconceptions do surround the canning. However, the bulk of these alterations occur during the initial preservation, primarily due to the addition of chemicals or excessive sugar. However, longstanding canning traditions offer abundant resources for low additive or sugar-free recipes. However, the nutritional component that can be lost is water-soluble vitamins. The general loss is between 15 and 55%, so at worst, we're only losing half of some vitamins. This wide range is due to the variety of fruit that can be processed. From the results of my research, my recommended approach is combining canning and freezing. This approach ensures prompt freezing during peak seasons and subsequent canning post-harvest. Ultimately, gleaning organizations should choose the method based on their constraints and their needs. However, the canning and freezing method combined are attainable for most gleaning organizations, small and large, and can improve their ability to connect with the community year-round. Food preservation offers a sustainable solution to gleaning organizations year-round. However, this research also extends beyond gleaning organizations in the summer. It can help food banks and other community members access to local fruit year-round. By relearning preservation types, like making sploosh, and bringing back the memories of our loved ones like grandparents and parents, we can enhance community connections and foster a deeper appreciation for our local agriculture like fig trees, year-round. And then hopefully, I would like to thank my internship partner, Rachel Ellingwood, for letting me drive her all around town, Jonas Post for her wonderful advice, Bennett Wilkes, my site supervisor, Jasmine, Riley, Trent, and the Latange family, and my parents. Thank you. Okay, I don't know why I tried to turn off the mic. I guess I got to answer some questions now. So, yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So for anyone who didn't hear that, she asked, why do volunteers fluctuate during the harvest season? This question is actually really good. Volunteers within gleaning organizations is actually a really interesting dynamic. It's most often college students or people who are retired because they have more flexibility. But the main thing is that, as you probably noticed, gleaning is very seasonal. So the volunteers who engage with this are only really thinking about it during the summer. And so if they're not thinking about it during the winter, when spring comes around, it's usually the last thing on their mind. And so volunteer engagement in the beginning of gleaning organizations is usually the hardest. That's why I mentioned earlier, if gleaning organizations are active year-round, volunteer engagement improves. Thank you for your question. Any other questions? Yeah. Thanks. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if any of you guys have fruit trees in here, I would highly recommend donating to City Fruit. But what they ask is if you, there's like some issues with preserving fruit at home and then bringing it to food banks, mostly for safety reasons. And their question was regarding how can we get food to the food banks? I think the best method is if you have excess fruit like that, if you have a fruit tree, obviously partnering with gleaning organizations like this, but it's the best method. Yeah, it's kind of hard because we can't can at home, but if you can also volunteer with these organizations to can for them. I know while working at City Fruit, we had a really small kitchen and then all the volunteers canned at home so we could get products out. So if you can or if you can bake, absolutely do it for these gleaning organizations and turn around products to go to food banks. So yeah, thank you for your question. It was really good. Great.